When you see Chuck Norris rocking a turtleneck, it's about to get real. Okay, everybody, today we are going all the way back to 1978 to look at what I think is from the golden era of the Norris, the Chuck Norris. We are talking about Good Guys Wear Black. And I'll get more into why I think this is the golden era of Chuck Norris later on. But before we go any further, before we dig into this gem anymore, once and again, and as always, to the trailer.
Chuck Norris is John T. Goldberg. Good guys wear black.
Who did you talk to at that cocktail party in Washington?
Please don't ask. I'm almost certain I'll lie.
In the hospital, I told myself the war was over. I lived through it, I'll put it behind me.
The war is about to be real. Good guys wear black. He once was their spy. Now he must die.
There's a contract out on me.
I'm not the enemy, John. I told you that last night.
We were set up.
Murder?
Set up.
This is my kind of jungle.
And it was expedient to get rid of the black tigers.
Set up all the way.
I'm not gonna let it happen.
Stop the goddamn car!
Once he was their spy. Now it's kill or die. Good guys wear black.
Okay, everybody, this motion picture was directed by Ted Post. We talked about it before. Let's get into it again. He did Hang 'em High, Magnum Force, Night Kill, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and tons of TV, Insight, Arc 2, Payton Place, and Rawhide, and Gunsmoke, and Combat, and Wagon Train, and The Detectives, and The Rifleman. So, you've seen his work, whether you know you've seen his work or not. Either way, out there, did a bunch of stuff. There you go. Playing John Booker. And of course he has one of those names. It's like, you know, you never hear a guy playing Stanley Leibowitz. It does no. Playing John Booker, Chuck Norris. The reason we're all here. Let's run the numbers. Of course he was in stuff like Silent Rage. And he was in Way of the Dragon and The Octagon and A Force of One and Forced Vengeance and the Missing in Action series and Lone Wolf McQuade and Sidekicks and Invasion USA and Breaker Breaker and the Delta Force, and he was on TV, of course, in Walker, Texas Ranger. So, is what it is, was what it is. He is part of the American culture and almost identity at this point. You know what I mean? He doesn't do push-ups, he pushes the earth down. That kind of stuff, it's Chuck Norris. Playing Margaret. Whew. And Archer. And by the way, somebody complains to me one time that I always review movies to the point of view of a man. But I am a man. So, whatever. Let's get back on track. And Archer. Let's run the numbers. We're talking about she was in things like Patriot Games, and Fatal Attraction, and Lifeguard, and Raise the Titanic, and Hero at Large, and Clear and Present Danger, and on TV, Privileged, and Boston Public, and Falcon Crest, and Family Tree, Bobtail Carol, and Alice, Paper Empire. Yes, and Archer. Quite visually appealing. Play Morgan! That guy from that time. James Franciscus. Let's do it. Of course, he was in the big monkey movie we are talking about. He was in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, The Greek Tycoon, Hell Boat, Killer Fish, The Last Shark, and on TV, Hunter, Doc Elliott, Longstreet, Mr. Novak, The Investigators, Naked City, Combat, The FBI. So, James Franciscus was one of the... He was that face, you know what I mean? That kind of pretty boy face, the face back in the 70s. He was in a lot of shit, just the way it goes. And playing Saunders, Lloyd, Haynes. Not a household name, not a lot of stuff, but we're going to show him a little love. He was on a lot of TV shows, and we're talking about TV shows like Dynasty and Heart to Heart and General Hospital and Marcus Welby and Emergency and The Fugitive and Batman and Green Hornet and Room, what they do in Star Trek. So, again, not a big star by any stretch of the imagination, but he has a face where you'll sit there and you'll say, I know somewhere I've seen that dude before. Okay, everybody, we are going to try to do this in 90 seconds or less. So we can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving, and we can get to where we waste the most time, the summation. And being that this is a Chuck Norris movie that actually has a fairly cool and complicated plot, I'm going to try to lay it out the best I can. You got this guy, Senator Morgan, James Franciscus, and he's got his underling with him, and they are meeting Lloyd Haynes, from the CIA. And what he needs that guy to do is to get his group, the Black Tigers, who specialized in, during the war, taking out double agents and Vietnamese, let's just say, intelligence ops. And he needs them to go in and rescue some CIA POWs in Vietnam. Really what he's trying to do is negotiate the end of the war, and he doesn't care how many POWs get left or whatever. He's just doing an optics thing. Hey, let's just try to rescue some people so it looks good for me on Capitol Hill. Whatever. Let's just go. Anyway, that's what happens. So Lloyd Haynes goes out and he gets Chuck Norris and this group of guys who are all blatantly too old to be doing this kind of work to go in and to rescue some POWs. But when they get there, all hell breaks loose. The plan turns to shit. Everything goes wrong. And Chuck Norris says, this thing went wrong by the numbers. We were set up. Well, cut 5 years later, and you find out Chuck Norris is now racing cars around a racetrack, and he's like a test driver, whatever. It doesn't really make a difference. He's just being cool, and there's hot chicks around him. It doesn't really matter. Whatever. And he's also a teacher at UCLA of like political science or some shit like that, where he meets this extremely hot Ann Archer in his class. And he starts talking to her. He's like, oh, what are you, like a reporter? And she's like, yeah, I'm kind of like a reporter. It is. You want to go to dinner? Well, yeah, sure. They go to dinner. Where all of a sudden he's almost accidentally killed in a traffic accident by this guy with a pickup truck. Well, actually, I should say a tow truck. It is what it is. But he lives. He survives. They move on. They go back to his apartment. She starts asking him about this super secret mission, and she knows way too much, that he did during the war to rescue some POWs. He says, listen, I know we were set up. I know things went wrong. I know this shouldn't have happened, but I'm past it. I can't waste my time dwelling on it, and I don't want to know the answers because they lay way too high up the government food chain, so I'm going to let it go. Either way, being a Chuck Norris motion picture, after these questions and all this kind of stuff goes on, they have the Chuck Norris gets the hot chick sex. And in the morning, he goes for the after sex run, where he meets Lloyd Haynes, who says to him, hey, Booker, what's going on, buddy? They start talking, and he starts to inform him that they got problems. You see, all 5 guys that survived that botched mission that I was telling you about from earlier in this thing, anyway, they're being targeted for assassination. And possibly Lloyd Haynes himself is being targeted for assassination. Why? We don't know. All we know is it lies very high up the governmental food chain. And all of these boys are now being systematically taken out because they were basically listed as a double agent, which is false, by some force in the government. So now they're being executed. Not good. Chuck Norris goes off to warn some of his boys. One of them is actually working at like an amusement park thing. And just as the reporter shows up, boop, this guy gets capped. Not good. Doesn't look right. He says, we got to go warn the next guy. So if they go to warn the next guy, while he's on the plane, he sees some guy that looks vaguely familiar, but he can't really place it. Doesn't matter. That guy gets off the plane too, hooks up with this chick, and disappears. But the next thing you know, Chuck Norris and the girl, they go off to the ski lodge to meet his other buddy. Where his buddy goes, hey, we'll talk after I do this one jump. And he catches a bullet through the chest. I shit you not. Crazy stuff. Either way, now Chuck Norris is a little bit freaked out. He's like, why does this keep happening? Why is this reporter always here when it happens? Anyway, he winds up tracking down the shooter, beats the shit out of it, knocks him off a bike, they die. It turns out to be that girl that met that guy on a plane. And he says, oh, I know that guy on the plane. That was Mhin. He was one of the guys that was with us on the mission in the original days, way back in the day. Something is really going wrong. And he says to the reporter, what do you know? And she says, well, okay, here's the story. You know that guy Morgan, he's a senator, he's going to be Secretary of State, where the hell he's going to become in this motion picture. He had an underling who hates his guts. He got drunk one night, told me about this big setup being done to these guys that were like the Black Tigers that were supposed to go on this mission, and all hell broke loose, and it didn't work out the way it was supposed to work out, and I'm not supposed to know this because I'm really a lawyer doing an investigation into him. Now he does not like me, obviously, and now I'm probably on the shit list, and all hell is breaking loose. You get the idea. You get the idea. So anyway, now that he knows that she's a lawyer investigating Morgan, and she's really in the danger just like everybody else, he sends her on a plane to go back home. But that plane explodes! Poof! Right in the middle of the sky. Chuck Norris says, oh shit, no. Starts running around looking, and he sees this guy Mhin that was part of his group or whatever in disguise, and they have a big fight. He knocks him out, and then he does this classic jump through the windshield, kill the man as he's driving scene. All hell is breaking loose. A few minutes later, to skip ahead, they go and see Morgan's underling. Yes, they go talk to him. And he's this old guy who's been in the business for a long time. And he tells him, yes, the whole thing was a setup. Yes, the whole thing was bullshit. And the only reason he hasn't killed me, because I was stupid enough to get drunk and leak it to this goddamn lawyer at a party, was because I wrote 5 letters telling the truth about what happened and what took place. And if I die, those 5 letters get sent to the media, and they're all in these lawyers, and he doesn't know where they are. Am I taking too long getting into this? I don't know. It's a complicated plot. Is what it was. So, Chuck Norris, Lloyd Haynes, they go see James Franciscus and say, dude, we know what you did. It's bullshit. Franciscus says, nobody's going to listen to that guy because I just had him put into a psych ward to make him look crazy so they can ignore his letters. Yes, that's the whole thing. You boys were set up. What took place was that the leaders of the Vietnam Army, or the Vietnamese, they wanted your group dead because you killed a lot of their boys. And to get that peace meeting, we had to kill all of you guys to appease them. And now, 5 of you are still alive. And now they want the last 5 dead. I have to turn my eye to this, where they kill you people, or I have to help them kill you people, just because they have that deal hanging over my head. And to make everything go so I can get into this position, you guys need to die just like you were supposed to die 5 years ago. Basically, that's the gist of it. What happens? They walk out. Morgan makes this comment about, sorry about your lady friend. Chuck Norris says, you prick. Okay. Winds up beating the shit out of his limo driver and taking the limo driver's position in his car. And now you got Chuck Norris in the car and you got Morgan in the car. What's going to happen? Is something going to happen? Is somebody going to... Well, I don't want to ruin everything. Basically, I just gave you like 98% of the movie. But you get the idea. That's it. I don't know where else to go with that. It's a long explanation. It is what it is. Let's roll. Okay, everybody. Does good guys wear black work? Shit, yeah, good guys wear black works. Actually, it's of that era of Chuck Norris that I really enjoy. I'm going to be honest with you. I really liked like the 77 to 82 Chuck Norris movies. I did. They were a little grittier. They were a little bit more low budget. They were a little bit more, I don't know what you want to call them, but those are the ones I liked. All the stuff, the Delta Forces and Invasion this and Missing in Action that, I always just felt like they were hopping on a bandwagon at that point. But these movies, his early movies, Forced Vengeance, An Eye for an Eye, Silent Rage, all that kind of shit, that's the kind of stuff I really enjoyed. So this falls right in line with that. And we're going to take apart why, as a motion picture, not just for my own sentimental reasons, it works. But let's get the big 3 out of the way. The directing, it looks good. I'm not saying it looks amazing, but it looks good, especially considering this is a motion picture that does not have what I would call the largest budget. It's well shot. Some of it slips into handheld because, they're trying to save a few bucks and do what they do, but it looks good. Enough said. The writing! Actually, shockingly, this thing actually has, as I just went through for a prolonged period of time in this story, a well laid out, intelligent plot. Thought-provoking. Kind of realistic. Yes, surrounded by some martial arts shit thrown in there. But the writing, whether it's the dialogue between the characters or the writing of the story, is solid and well constructed. So, no complaints there at all. The acting. Well, shit, let's be honest. Come on, it's a Chuck Norris movie. Carradine once said, you're about as good an actor as I am as a martial artist. So, you get the idea. Chuck is not known for being that much of a dynamically charged actor. But for a guy who's really a puncher and a kicker, he does a solid job. He looks good in the scenes he's in. Ann Archer is just great. You know what I mean? She comes across very well. Lloyd Haynes does his job, and let's be honest, James Franciscus is always perfect as a bad guy, playing that kind of a schmuck role. You know what I mean? Looks a little too good, talks a little too well, dresses a little too nice. So he fits that. So the acting, hey, for this kind of movie, above and beyond. Now let's get back to what works about this motion picture. As I just stated a moment ago, you got a solid plot that keeps it kind of intriguing. It sits there and gives you a story that unfolds, and you learn as it goes along. It doesn't just give you everything in one blurb in the beginning. You're discovering things kind of as he's discovering things. You learn things through Anne Archer, even though you know she's hiding things, but you are revealed things as time goes by. You sit there and you wonder about his boy, Lloyd Haynes. Is he good? Is he bad? But you find out, no, he's actually a good guy. And then you find out really more about what happened with Franciscus and all those other people. So it unveils itself. It doesn't give it to you all at once and just spell it out. It's actually well and quickly paced. I mean, it's an hour and a half movie, for Christ's sakes, right? But for a movie that has this much intrigue, like you were watching something like Black Sunday or The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and they just cram it into this little fucking flick and hit you with it in an hour and 30 minutes, they do a good job at that. So you can't complain. Also, I gotta say, I do love the lower budget the Norris movie, the more I usually tend to like it. And I'll tell you why. I love location shots. I really do. Sets, they're nice, whatever. But I really love location shooting. And these are the kind of movies that were just mostly shot in location because they didn't have money to build sets. You know what I mean? If they're going to go someplace, they're just going to shoot it there. And you can figure out that the director's saying, where can I stick a camera in this room? That kind of stuff has a little bit of an authentic look to it. And that's one of the things that crops up in this motion picture too. So for me, that kind of look and this kind of motion picture is always a plus. The score is semi-solid. Sometimes it just creeps in there at places you're like, But it's going for that kind of sound, vibe that goes in to like a Dirty Harry movie or something else. So the score itself, not bad either. And let's keep in mind too, for a martial arts movie, the scenes, yes, there's a few of them in there with the kicks and the punches and the whole 9 yards, but it's not predominant. It doesn't take over the motion picture. Yeah, there's a few of them. Yeah, but actually, you probably could have pulled them out in this motion picture, and it really wouldn't have changed anything that much, or you could have even simplified them, and it wouldn't have changed anything. Basically saying the motion picture doesn't revolve around martial arts. They're just in a motion picture that's kind of like a political espionage movie with a little bit of martial arts thrown in there. So there you go. And of course, yes, the acting can be a little bit wooden by Mr. Norris, but like I said earlier, Archer's great. Lloyd Haynes is really, really good. And let's be honest, Franciscus is perfect in this kind of role. So you are surrounded with a group of actors that make you feel like, okay, hell, they even made Anne Archer feel sympathetic for a woman who's like always keeping secrets and doing weird shit all the way through the movie. So you got that. Now, are there any negatives to this motion picture? Well, there's a few, but nothing too bad. Let's go. First off, the back lots of California or wherever they were using for the scenes in Vietnam look nothing like Vietnam. I'm just waiting for the Hollywood sign to pop up in the background, to be honest. You know what I mean? There's no way any of that looked like Vietnam. And it had a little bit of that cheesy, low budget, we're going to recreate Vietnam and have a martial arts fight scene in the middle of it vibe to it. So yes, when you're there, you're like, okay, they got a helicopter and a bunch of guys in black sweatsuits to go in there and do this big scene. But you know. And also, let's be honest. The Black Tigers, where'd they get these guys? The rest home? Many CIA hit team special forces units, call them whatever you want. Not many of them look like they're about ready to start filing in for Social Security. And there was several of the guys on this team where you're like, how old are these dudes? Where did they get these guys? These aren't a bunch of like 25-year-old ripped guys in shape that go out and pull something off. These are like a bunch of grizzled old men that I cannot picture running 5 miles out of any situation when the helicopter doesn't show up. So, yeah, you take that with a grain of salt. And finally, when your selling point in this motion picture is the big kick, you know what the big kick is. The car comes at Norris, he leaps through the air, goes right through the windshield, takes out a, former guy he used to know. Let's face reality. You can see that's not Chuck Norris. You can see that from about 850 miles away. This is like some Star Trek fight scene shit, where you're just like, that's clearly not William Shatner. But it is what it is. I mean, it's in there. It's going to be what it's going to be. And you just got to take it with a grain of salt. And finally, for a motion picture, yes, does move at a good, fast pace, which is nice. They are trying to throw in a lot of plot line into a very short motion picture that's divided up with, let's just say, action and martial arts and things of that nature. So you're trying to cover a lot of ground of this happened, this one's screwing this guy, this one's screwing this guy, we're going to explain everything in one short scene, blah, 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 and just keep moving, which is great. But keep in mind, this is not like a slow burn type of thing. So you actually have to sit there and pay attention, or if you walk away or your mind goes for a minute, you're going to be like, well, how did this relate to that again? Because it was all just settled or revealed within about a 15, 20-second exchange where you're just like, okay, that's got that. Now we're to the next part. Now we're to the next part. Oh, that 30-second exchange, and now we're to the next part. But if you miss those little exchanges, or you're phasing out during those moments, because the movie does move so quick, you're going to be left a little bit like, well, how does this relate to that again? But it is what it is. You can deal with it. Anyway, everybody, get out there and watch Good Guys Wear Black from the golden age of one Carlos. We're old friends, so I don't call him Chuck. I call him by his real name, Norris. And go down memory lane and check this thing out. It's a solid flick with an actual solid plot that gets sometimes strangely forgotten in the history of Chuck Norris. People are always going to go to the mission action flicks or Lone Wolf McQuade or maybe hit the Octagon, stuff like that. But it's so rare that any of them talk about A Force of One or An Eye for an Eye or any of those kind of motion pictures. It's just kind of like they glaze over them and go to the later years of Chuck Norris, which I always thought was inferior to the early years of Chuck Norris. This motion picture's got a solid plot, decent acting, restrained martial arts. Yes, it's a little hunky and cartoonish because, Booker is just too fucking cool in every way. But you get that anyway. It is what it is. Fine movie, much overlooked. Give it a chance. You can find it for free. That's all I'm going to say. More coming. Anyway, be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Be kind to a stranger. Be there for a friend. But most of all, never, and I mean ever, take any bullshit from anybody. I'll see you all soon.